got a pretty dynamic team, right around 35 people. Last year we closed 338 units for right around 130, 140 million. So that's us. All right. So now we're gonna get into a little bit of nitty gritty stuff and go at it.
We can talk about state market, not about mortgages or interest rate and all that stuff. We can talk about really about buyers and sellers and look at the trend, what's going on, so you can actually use this information to help you to how to help your clients and seller and buyers going forward. And this information is actually from NRA, so you can pull this up from the website as well. But it's really, we're not able to go through all of them. So we might skip through some of them.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to get, so right now this is carry the sort of the home buyer today, right? So Faiyaz, just look at, so this is on top is the age group of all the buyers and the percentage. You can see the high percentage. So this is talk about the primary reason purchasing a home. Faiyaz, but looking at this, the top 5 things, what's the most important you think that people are looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like there's some commonalities that we're going to see, throughout this presentation. But the things that we can't forget that even though 2023 might have been a little bit tougher for some of us, there's still life events that still happen, right? People still need a home. People still need a roof over their heads. Divorces are going to happen. Weddings are going to happen. Babies are going to come. Deaths are going to come. And so if you notice the trend line here, I mean, the top couple of things are still relatively the same. So if we're engaging with our database, if we're engaging with our past clients, if we're engaging with the people in our community, they're still going to have the experiences that all of us are going to have eventually at one point in our lives, right? And so housing is always going to be a requirement. We just have to engage with those people.
And then over here, we hear a lot about interest rates being high, and that's eventually going to go down. Faiyaz, what do you think is going to happen in the next 6 months or 9 months when the interest rate change?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys saw the numbers yesterday, look, inflation, it didn't come down, right? The last 2 reports, inflation has still been higher than what was anticipated. When in December, what was the call? Oh, we're going to have 5, 6 rate cuts. That is not going to happen anymore. And our mortgage guy from Guaranteed Rate, I'm sure he can tell us just as much. But right now, I would say that June, July is probably going to be your first rate cut. You're still going to have a pretty, the 6s are there, right? But it's the new norm. I mean, how many people right now are having a fairly busy spring season, and you're going to see the summer kind of catch up? How much are your buyers actually talking about mortgage rates, or are they more interested in, hey, it's spring and summer, and I need to buy a home for all those reasons that we just talked about previously? We're still having some rate conversations, no doubt about it. But how we formulate that into affordability for them and maybe look at the factors is really what's important right now.
So definitely stay in touch with all your buyers, because eventually they going to buy very soon. Everyone's going to come out of the gate, and you want to stay in touch with them.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about dating the rate and all that stuff but I would rather get my buyers in right now when it's less competitive, so that they're not having to pay over asking or having to waive appraisals, waive inspections, and things like that. It's for me, from a fiduciary duty standpoint, Valencia is talking about commission breath. This is not a commission breath. This is actually coming from a place of care. Like, I want you to get in the house when it's a more desirable time, rather than you're going to be really stressed out down the line in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, because where we are here, we're still dealing with waiving appraisal. We still limiting home inspection. Someone's like, you're waiving home inspection, right? So imagine that when the interest will go down, more buyers will come through, your clients have to pay a lot more, not just in the price, but also in all the other terms. So if they're somewhat ready, get them out, because as you said, less competition. All right, here we go. So now we're going to go to home purchase. So this factor in a lot. Faiyaz, by looking at this chart, right, what do you think buyers are really, really concentrating on?
Well, one thing that really stood out for me, which is painful, if you look here, overall affordability for homes. I mean, look at our first-time home buyers, right? Look at that age group and demographic. They're really being impacted by the pricing of homes. And you've got a pretty large age gap from 24 to 42. And that's going to depend on some markets of what your first-time home buyers. But how many times are we now seeing parents having to help out with the down payments, right? Down payments are having to come from different sources than before, right? So I think that's really something that we have a large age group right there that is really having to delay the whole concept of first-time home buying. And we as real estate agents need to figure out innovative ways of, hey, are we doing negotiating rate buy downs? I mean, this is a skill set market, right? And so you as a real estate agent, the value proposition, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, the value proposition of how you can get those buyers who are being impacted by rates, who are being impacted by pricing, is really how you're going to differentiate yourself from everyone else.
And also at the same time, look at the age group who's buying houses right now. It's between 24 to 43, and then look at the percentage, right? And then to go down, look at the convenience of jobs location. Like, they want it convenient. So you need to make sure you know how they get to their jobs and how close they are to the work. And that's something, a conversation to have. The other thing is that also, when you look down a little bit further, look at where this is. What does that say?
Yeah, the schools.
So you need to know all your schools. Make sure you are the local expert to know everything about school, because that's two things that's really important to them right now. Convenient to school, right?
And I'm genuinely curious. Like, obviously, I'm from the Carolinas. We don't have walkability really where we are, right? So commuting is part of it. I know you guys are commuting quite a bit as well. Where I live, the schools are super important. That's probably the number one reason why people move where we are. But then again, in some of the larger metropolitan areas, people are having kids later, right? They're buying homes later. They're having kids later. So this whole timeline is moving further back, but it's still an absolutely important part of that purchase process.
So this is interesting. This is what they're willing to actually compromise on buying a house. Look, the first thing. They're willing to compromise on what?
Price, absolutely.
That's amazing, right?
Yep.
But there's certain things they're not willing to compromise on. What would that be?
Well, location, is super important for them, and that's the most important thing. So condition right now, and again, houses are getting more expensive. Maybe they're not getting the perfect house, and we know that to be the case. Condition of house is being more and more compromised, right? So, and that's why the price is there.
And look at this. This is actually about asking price. Some of your buyers like, hey, you know what? I don't pay more than asking price. Is this worth this price? Look at this data. Look at how many people are paying less than their asking price, but look at how many people are paying over asking price.
So you have 31% of the market. And again, these are national statistics, right? Your local market could differentiate, but 31% of nationally, which is an incredible number. I would have thought it would be a little bit less than that, is still over asking. I know, I think it was in 2022, in the Charlotte area alone, for the whole year, 30% of our deals were cash, right? That's a pretty large metropolitan area. For you guys in the local area, are you seeing 30% over asking? Is that fairly common? All right, cool. So now we're still having to do really strong negotiations. Simon just mentioned we're still having to waive appraisals or waive inspections. This is going to come back again. Maybe you're not seeing that right now. I'm seeing a few over asking where we are, but I anticipate that over the next 9 months, that's going to come back again.
Yeah, so when you have clients that you're working with, that a buyer, and they sometimes may or may not believe you, use the data to help you to say, you really want to win the house when you have 30 offers on the table. 30. How many people are writing offers that have 30 offers, 20 offers, right? So you want to show them and say, look, you know what? It's not coming from me. This is data. So if you want to win the house, this is what the opportunity you can do it in, but this is the strategies we have to do it.
So as a team owner, this slide is also very important to me because I have to have my finger on the pulse of what is the emotional state of my agents on the team, right? 3 years ago, we were in COVID, and it was a completely different market. Then we had low inventory, which we still do, and it's like all kinds of crazy offers all at the same time. Then we go into a high interest rate market. Now we're slowing back down again. It's like every 6 months, it's a different type of negotiation capability and a different type of market. For us as agents, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to change the way that I'm doing business every 6 months. And it's really a roller coaster ride. And I'm seeing more stressed agents now than I've ever seen before. So keep account of that the data allows you to kind of see what's maybe going on in your team, not just with your clients.
So we go to home search process. So look at the amount of people still using real estate today. Okay.
Yeah, what this slide really told me was that our industry is still a relationship-based industry. You know, listen, we're focusing on tech so much more and more, but I will take an agent who has people-to-people relationships over a computer-based agent any day. And I'm telling you that agent will outsell someone behind a computer screen all day long. And this is what the stats are telling us. They still want us as people. We are not the replaceable ones in this industry.
And look at the top 5, which is really important because you got to look at those and where you want to spend your effort in. Also, later on, we're going to talk about profitability. And you got to look at it, and people like, using like, oh, let's spend money on magazine, let's do billboard and television. They are not there to get you the business. So spend money wisely and making sure that makes sense for you.
And you know what's even more powerful? An agent who is relationship-based, combining it with the power of social media, right? I mean, the data is showing you that right there is like, because your reach just gets exponentially more, because you're using the power of social media to create more relationships, not to replace relationships.
Yeah, and then later on, we're going to talk about social media, so we're going to talk about video that later on as well. All right, we're going to go to the next thing. The first step they look at for properties, Finesse, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so, I mean, again, the tech is important, right? This is where Valencia was talking about. Like, this is where the scripting comes into play, where they're looking online. They're coming to you, to your SEO. They're coming to your website. You need to have that scripting in place. They're contacting the real estate agent. Look, how many of you guys yourselves, like, I mean, look, you're sitting in your bedroom late at night. You're just curious about the vacation home in a different part of the country. You're looking on Zillow. Yes, we do it. I know, right? But we're also finding it as well, right? That's what the average consumer is doing. They're looking online, and they're looking for that real estate agent to help them locally. So that's where the percentages are going.
All right, we're going to go through this really fast. So this is important how you communicate to your clients.
Yeah, I want to focus on this a little bit because this right here slide, for me, it was what Via was talking about, the kind of like the upper limit. The consumer is telling you what they want, and these are the things that a lot of us are bad at, right? I mean, how many times have we just dropped the ball and not communicated with the client? You know, the lack of communication is one of the biggest faults in our industry. What communications are you using? Like, are you under-promising and over-delivering rather than doing the opposite? And then now you get that upper limit kind of feeling that Via was talking about, and then a week goes by and 2 weeks goes by, and then next thing you know, that lead is gone. So they're asking for the communication, over-communicate. I've never had a client say, you're talking to me too much, right? I've never had a client say, yeah, I just don't like all this information. You're overstimulating me with data and information, right? You're too smart of an agent for me. I just never have had that, right? So let's really focus on what the clients are asking for, and that's more communication, more data. Be the smartest agent in the room. And if you're not the smartest agent, if you are, then get a bigger room, right? Always look up.
Yeah, so definitely stay in touch. That's really what this is, and making sure you continue having conversation. Don't give up on them until they tell you, say, you know what, don't bother me anymore.
Right, absolutely. And the next slide leads to that as well. Again, reputation is super important. We're talking about responsiveness. That's what I pride myself in. I mean, I moved to the Charlotte area. I had no sphere. I'd actually lived overseas before I moved to Charlotte. I'd never lived in the town. I had no social media because I was a defense contractor, so we weren't really online very much. I don't have kids, so I didn't have the kids to use them and leverage them to get in and create spheres. So I had never sold or bought a home before in my life, right? So I had all the disadvantages, but all I did was this. Like, I was responsive to people.